I told the alien girl, "You're really beautiful." Her reaction took me by surprise. HFY Ethan Hale had learned many rules during his years as a human envoy, but the most important one was simple. On a multi-species station, quiet observation kept you alive. Words mattered. Gestures mattered. Even silence could be dangerous if used at the wrong moment. The transit station called Vierk's Gate floated between three-star routes, a place of constant movement and temporary lives. Ships arrived and departed every hour. Species from dozens of worlds crossed paths without ever truly seeing one another. Most conversations were brief, polite, and careful. No one stayed long enough to build trust. Ethan had been waiting there for nearly 6 hours. His transport to the outer colonies had been delayed again, and the public waiting chamber was crowded but strangely silent. Aliens of different shapes and sizes occupied designated zones marked by soft, glowing lines on the floor. Some had translators pulsing faint light near their throats. Others relied on subtle movements, antenna flicks, or shifting skin tones to communicate. Humans were still new to this part of space, not feared, not respected either, just watched. Ethan sat alone on a bench near the edge of the chamber, a small bag at his feet, his jacket folded over his arm. He was tired but not impatient. He had learned long ago that impatience only made time feel heavier. That was when he noticed her. She sat several meters away, just outside the boundary of her species-marked zone, as if she did not quite belong even among her own kind. Her posture was careful, almost folded inward. Long, smooth limbs rested neatly together. Her skin carried a soft, pale shimmer, not bright, not dull, but gently reflective like moonlight on calm water. Fine lines of faint blue light traced patterns along her arms and neck, pulsing slowly like a quiet breath. No one sat near her. Other aliens glanced in her direction and quickly looked away. Some adjusted their translators nervously. A few moved farther from her zone altogether. Ethan noticed the space around her remained empty, even though seats were scarce. He frowned slightly. He had seen that look before, not fear exactly, more like caution mixed with old stories. The kind of reaction that came from misunderstanding, not danger. Ethan watched her for several minutes without meaning to. She did not move much. Only her eyes shifted, carefully tracking the movement of people, ships, doors. There was intelligence there and something else. Sadness, maybe, or loneliness. Humans were good at noticing that. He told himself it was none of his business. He was tired. He should rest. He should keep to himself. But then their eyes met, just for a moment. The alien girl stiffened slightly as if caught doing something wrong. Her gaze flicked away at once, her shoulders tightening. The faint blue lines along her skin pulsed a little faster. Ethan looked away too, feeling oddly embarrassed. He cleared his throat and leaned back, staring at the station ceiling, which glowed with slow-moving star maps. Minutes passed, then something unexpected happened. A small service drone malfunctioned near the center of the chamber. Its stabilizers failed, and it dropped a crate of nutrient packs onto the floor. The impact echoed loudly, startling everyone. Several species reacted at once. Sharp sounds, flared colors, defensive postures. The alien girl reacted differently. She flinched hard, pulling her arms close to her chest, her breathing suddenly quick. The blue lines on her skin brightened sharply, almost painfully so. Her eyes widened, unfocused, like someone reliving a memory they did not want. No one helped. Most beings stepped away, assuming it was a defensive response or a dangerous state. Station staff hesitated, unsure of protocol. Ethan stood up. He did not think. He did not check a guide or signal an officer. He simply walked toward her slowly, palms open, movements calm. A few nearby aliens hissed warnings in their own languages. Others backed away further. Ethan ignored them. He stopped a respectful distance away and spoke softly, letting his translator do its work. "It's okay," he said. "It was just a loud noise. You're safe." The alien girl froze completely. Her eyes lifted, locking onto him, not in fear this time, but in shock. No one spoke to her directly, not like that, not without formality or distance. She said nothing. Ethan felt awkward, suddenly aware of how foolish he might look. He smiled gently, not showing teeth, remembering that could be threatening to some species. "I'm Ethan," he added. "I didn't mean to scare you." Her breathing slowly steadied. The blue light along her skin dimmed, returning to its soft glow. After a long pause, she spoke. Her voice was quiet, clear, and carried a musical tone even through the translator. "I am called Lureth." Her words were careful, precise. Ethan nodded. It's nice to meet you. Another pause followed. Around them, the station returned to its low hum. Staff cleared the fallen crate. People pretended not to stare, though many still watched closely. Lureth studied him intently, her head tilting slightly. You are human. Yeah, Ethan said simply. You approached without summons, she said. He shrugged lightly. You looked like you could use someone nearby. Her gaze sharpened at that. Most choose distance. I noticed. Silence stretched again, but it was different now, less heavy. Ethan was aware of how strange this must look. A human standing alone with an alien girl that others avoided. He felt the weight of eyes on his back, but he did not step away. Then, without planning to, he spoke. You're really beautiful, he said. The words were quiet, honest. Casual in the way humans often were, the effect was immediate. The station chamber seemed to stop breathing. Several aliens turned sharply toward them. A translator unit near a nearby delegate spiked in alarm. One being dropped a data slate. Even the ambient lights seemed to dim slightly as systems recalibrated. Lureth did not move. Her eyes widened slowly. The blue lines across her skin flared bright, racing along her arms and neck like living light. Her posture stiffened, every muscle locked in place. Ethan felt a sudden cold wave of regret. Oh, he said quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. She raised a hand. The gesture was small but commanding. Ethan stopped speaking at once. Her voice, when she spoke, was no longer merely careful, it trembled. You spoke a declaration. Ethan blinked. I what? Around them, low murmurs spread. Some aliens backed away further. Others leaned in tense. A pair of station security officers began moving toward them from the far end of the chamber. Lureth's gaze never left Ethan's face. Among my people, she said slowly, such words are spoken only once in a lifetime. They are bound to truth, to vow to identity. Ethan swallowed. I didn't know, he said honestly. I swear where I come from it's just kindness, appreciation. I wasn't trying to claim anything. Her expression shifted, confusion mixing with something deeper. You say such words freely? Sometimes, Ethan replied, when we mean them. That seemed to affect her even more. The blue glow softened, no longer sharp but radiant. Her breathing deepened, steady but heavy, as if holding back something powerful. You meant it, she said, not a question. Ethan nodded. Yes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Lureth lowered her hand and did something no one expected. She bowed her head slightly. The motion was subtle, but it carried immense weight. Several aliens gasped softly. One of the approaching officers stopped short, eyes wide. I was not prepared, Lureth said quietly. No one has ever spoken so to me without obligation or intent. Ethan felt his heart pound. He had walked into something far bigger than himself, and yet, strangely, he did not feel afraid. I'm sorry if I caused trouble, he said, but I won't take it back. Her eyes lifted again, shining not just with light but emotion. Nor should you, she said. The station speakers chimed, announcing another delay. The sound echoed through the chamber, but the moment between them remained untouched. Around them, the galaxy shifted its understanding of humans, just a little. And neither Ethan nor Lureth yet understood how deeply those simple words would change everything that followed. The silence after Lureth's bow did not break quickly. It stretched, thick and uncomfortable, filling the waiting chamber like unseen pressure. Conversations that had once been quiet now stopped completely. Even the hum of the station seemed lower, as if the structure itself was listening. Ethan stood still, unsure if moving would make things worse. He felt eyes on him from every direction. Some were curious. Some were alarmed. A few carried something close to fear. Lureth straightened slowly. The glow along her skin had settled into a calm rhythm, but it was brighter than before, more alive. She folded her hands together in front of her, posture formal now. You should step back, she said softly. Ethan frowned. Did I do something wrong? No, she replied, but others will think you did. As if summoned by her words, the station security officers arrived. They were tall, armored beings with jointed limbs and smooth helmets that hid their faces. Their weapons stayed lowered, but their stance was tense. One of them addressed Lureth first, speaking in careful tones through a translator. Esteemed traveler, are you harmed? I am not, Lureth answered. Has an offense occurred? She paused. Ethan noticed it. That pause carried weight. No offense, she said at last. Only speech. The officer turned toward Ethan. Human, did you issue a bonded declaration without clearance? Ethan took a breath. I spoke honestly. I didn't know it meant something else here. The officer's helmet tilted slightly. Ignorance does not remove consequence. Lureth's glow pulsed once brighter. Nor does it create intent, she said firmly. The officer hesitated. After a brief exchange over a private channel, the two officers stepped back. "This matter will be reviewed," the first one said. "Remain available." They withdrew, but the attention did not fade. Whispers moved through the chamber in dozens of languages. Ethan looked at Lureth. "I'm really sorry if this puts you in danger." "You did not endanger me," she said. "You confused the galaxy." He gave a small, nervous smile. "I seem to do that a lot." For the first time, Lureth's lips curved upward just barely. It was not a full smile, but it was close. "Come," she said. "We should move. Too many eyes." They relocated to a quieter edge of the chamber near a wide viewport. Stars drifted past slowly beyond the transparent alloy, distant and calm compared to the tension inside. For a moment, neither spoke. "You are not afraid," Lureth said eventually. Ethan leaned against the railing. "I am, just not of you." She studied him again, deeper this time. "Most fear my kind." "Why?" "Our emotional signals are visible," she said, gesturing slightly to the glowing lines. "Others believe that makes us unstable, dangerous." "And are you?" She considered the question. "Only when lied to," Ethan nodded. "That makes sense." Another pause. This one felt easier. "You said such words freely," Lureth said. "Is that common among humans?" "Sometimes," Ethan replied. "We don't always think before we speak, but when we do say things like that, it's usually because we feel them, not because we expect something back." "That is unusual," she said. "Maybe," he admitted. "But we believe saying good things out loud matters, even if they're temporary, even if nothing comes from them." Lureth looked out at the stars. "Among my people, words shape reality. We guard them carefully." "Humans shape reality with actions," Ethan said. "Words just help us point the way." She turned back to him, eyes reflecting the starlight. "Then your species must be very brave or very reckless." "Both," he said with a soft laugh. Before she could reply, the station lights shifted to alert tones. A low pulse rolled through the structure, followed by an announcement in multiple languages. "Attention all travelers, unscheduled vessel approaching, docking clearance pending." Murmurs rose instantly. Unscheduled arrivals were rare, dangerous sometimes. Lureth's posture changed at once. Her shoulders squared and the glow along her arms brightened slightly, steady and controlled. "That ship is not listed," she said. Ethan frowned. "Is that bad?" "It is concerning." Moments later, a second announcement came, more urgent. "Docking override detected. Security teams to alert stations." The chamber erupted into movement. Travelers gathered belongings. Some fled toward exits. Others activated personal shields. Panic spread unevenly, species by species. Ethan felt it too, a tightness in his chest. But instead of running, he looked at Lureth. "What do we do?" She hesitated. "My people require confirmation before intervention," she said. "We wait for command." Ethan glanced around. Security was mobilizing, but slowly, too slowly. "How long does that take?" he asked. "Sometimes too long." A distant vibration rolled through the station as the unknown ship forced docking clamps into place. The lights flickered. Ethan straightened. "Then we don't wait." She looked at him sharply. "That would violate protocol." He met her gaze. "It would save lives." Another tremor shook the deck. Somewhere far away, metal screamed as systems strained. Lureth's glow wavered, then steadied. "You would act without permission?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Humans do that." For a long moment she did nothing. Then she nodded once. "Then I will observe," she said, "and learn." They moved quickly. Ethan guided nearby civilians toward a reinforced corridor he had noticed earlier. He spoke calmly, clearly, helping translate where he could. Panic lessened when someone took charge. Lureth followed closely, watching everything. How he positioned himself between danger and others, how he spoke without shouting, how he touched shoulders lightly to reassure, never forcing. A loud impact echoed through the station. Screams followed. "That section is compromised," Lureth said. Ethan looked at the map display flashing nearby. "Then we reroute." They did. When a group of smaller beings froze in fear, Ethan knelt to their level and spoke gently until they moved again. When a door jammed, he forced it open with sheer effort, muscles straining. Lureth watched him bleed slightly from a scraped hand and not even notice. "This is why you speak freely," she realized quietly. "Your words are not promises, your actions are." They reached a secured shelter as station defenses finally activated. Security teams flooded the area, pushing back intruders who had begun to breach cargo zones. Ethan leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Lureth stood beside him. Her glow dimmed slowly, returning to calm. "You acted without hesitation," she said. "For strangers." Ethan wiped his hand on his jacket. "That's kind of our thing." She looked at him with something like awe. "Then your declaration earlier, it was not a bond." "No," he said. "Just the truth." She nodded slowly. "Among my people, truth is sacred. You treat it as a gift." Outside the shelter, alarms continued, but hope had returned. People were safe. The station would hold. Lureth turned fully toward Ethan. "When this ends," she said, "my people will ask why I allowed this." "What will you tell them?" he asked. "That a human reminded me that courage does not always ask permission." She paused, then added softly, "And that beauty can be spoken without chains." Ethan smiled, tired but genuine. The galaxy was still watching. And it was starting to understand. The alarms did not stop after the shelter doors sealed. They became deeper, slower, the kind that meant real danger had already entered the station. The lights shifted to a muted red tone, washing everything in warning. The hum of power systems grew louder, strained. Ethan sat on the floor against the wall for a moment, catching his breath. Around him, dozens of beings stood or crouched in silence. Some clutched small children. Others held data slates or travel packs like shields. Fear had not vanished, but it had settled into something more controlled. Lureth remained standing. Her eyes were closed, her hands relaxed at her sides. The glowing lines along her skin changed pattern, flowing inward toward her chest in slow waves. Ethan noticed it right away. "What's happening?" he asked quietly. "I am listening," she replied. "To what?" "To the station," she said, "and to my people." He frowned. "You can hear them from here." "Not here," she corrected. "Feel." Ethan nodded, accepting it without question. By now he had learned that doubting alien abilities usually wasted time. Her eyes opened. "The intruders are not many," she said, "but they are confident. That makes them dangerous." "Pirates?" Ethan guessed. "Yes, a private faction. They believe this station will hesitate to fight back fully because of diplomatic traffic." Ethan exhaled slowly. "They're not wrong." A heavy thud echoed somewhere above them, followed by a sharp vibration that rattled the walls. Several people gasped. "The cargo ring," Lureth said. "They are moving inward." Ethan pushed himself to his feet. "Then they'll reach this sector eventually." "Yes, can we move these people again?" She shook her head. "This shelter is reinforced, safer than corridors." Ethan scanned the room. The station security officers had not reached them yet. They were holding other breaches. That meant for now it was just him, Lureth, and a room full of civilians. He felt that familiar pressure in his chest again, the moment when a human decided whether to wait or act. "What aren't you telling me?" he asked. Lureth's glow flickered once. "My species is trained for conflict, emotion-based combat response. We are often used as deterrents." "Used," Ethan repeated. She met his gaze. "Yes. Because others fear what happens when we stop restraining ourselves." Ethan thought back to the way everyone avoided her, the empty space around her bench, the silence when she bowed. "They don't let you decide when to act," he said quietly. "No," she agreed. Another impact shook the station, closer this time. Ethan clenched his jaw. "Do you want to act?" The question seemed to surprise her more than any alarm. "I am not authorized," she said automatically. "That's not what I asked." Lureth looked around the shelter. At the frightened beings, at a small alien child clinging to a parent's leg, at the sealed door that might not hold forever, her glow bright and steady and strong. "Yes," she said, "I do." Before Ethan could respond, the shelter door lights flashed yellow. A warning tone followed. "Containment integrity compromised," the station announced calmly. "Great," Ethan muttered. "How long?" "Minutes," Lureth said. "Perhaps less." Ethan rolled his shoulders, forcing his fear down. "Okay, then we need to slow them, buy time." She tilted her head. "You would stand against armed intruders without armor." "I won't be alone," he said, glancing at her, her lips curved slightly. "You trust me." "I do," Ethan replied without hesitation. That did something to her. The light along her skin changed again, becoming brighter, more complex. Patterns Ethan had not seen before spread outward, sharp and beautiful like living constellations. "Then stay close," she said, "and do not lie to me." "Wasn't planning to." They moved to the shelter entrance. Ethan found a maintenance panel nearby and began working the manual override. He did not intend to open it fully, just enough to see what was coming. The door slid open a few inches. Smoke drifted through the gap, carrying the sharp scent of burned circuits. The corridor beyond was damaged, lights flickering, debris scattered across the floor. Then a shadow moved. 3 figures emerged from the haze. They were tall, armored, and confident. Their weapons were already raised, scanning. Pirate markings glowed faintly on their gear. "Civilians," one of them said through a distorted speaker. "Lucky us." Ethan stepped forward before fear could stop him. "This shelter is full," he said loudly. "Turn around." The pirates laughed. Lureth stepped beside him. The corridor lights flickered harder, responding to her presence. The glowing lines on her skin flared bright blue-white, casting sharp reflections across the walls. The pirates stopped laughing. "What is that?" one of them muttered. Lureth raised one hand slowly. "I am Lureth of the Calyrex Vale," she said. "Withdraw." The pirates hesitated. They recognized the name. Even criminals knew certain reputations. One of them scoffed. "You're alone." "I am not," she said. Ethan felt something press against his chest, not physically, but emotionally. A wave of intensity rolled through the corridor, focused and controlled. He realized with a jolt that Lureth was projecting her emotional state outward. The pirates staggered slightly, their confidence wavering. "Fear," Lureth said calmly. "You carry much of it, you mask it with noise." One pirate fired a warning shot. The blast scorched the wall inches from Ethan's shoulder. Everything changed. Lureth stepped forward. The air seemed to vibrate as her glow surged, patterns racing across her body faster than before. The station lights dimmed in response, power diverting instinctively. She did not attack physically. She looked at them. The pirates froze, their movements slowed, hands shaking. Their breathing grew uneven. One of them dropped to a knee, weapon clattering to the floor. "What is she doing?" Ethan whispered. "She is no longer restraining," Lureth said, voice calm but layered with power. She took another step. "You came here for profit," she continued. "You will leave with memory." The pirates cried out not in pain, but in overwhelming emotion, regret, guilt, fear. All the things they had buried came crashing to the surface. One by one they collapsed. Ethan stared, stunned. Lureth lowered her hand. The glow faded slightly, returning to a controlled state. She swayed once. Ethan caught her without thinking. "I've got you," he said. She leaned against him, breathing hard. "I cannot sustain that for long." Footsteps thundered down the corridor. Station security arrived at last, weapons raised, then quickly lowered as they saw the pirates unconscious on the floor. One officer stared at Lureth in open shock. "You acted without command," the officer said. "Yes," Lureth replied evenly. The officer looked at Ethan. Then at the shelter behind them, then back at Lureth. "You saved this sector," the officer said quietly. Security teams dragged the pirates away. Medics rushed in to check on civilians. The shelter doors opened fully and relieved voices filled the space. Ethan helped Lureth sit on a bench nearby. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Drained but clear." She looked at him. "You did not pull away." "No," he said. "Why would I?" "Many do," she replied. He shrugged. "Humans aren't very good at leaving people behind." She studied him, really studied him, as if seeing past his species and into something deeper. "My people will not like what I did," she said. "They might," Ethan replied. "If they listen." She shook her head slightly. "They will say I was influenced." "Were you?" She paused. Then said softly, "Yes." Ethan smiled. "Good influence, I hope." She returned the smile, this time fully. The station announcements shifted tone. The threat was contained, docking clamps released, power stabilized, life resumed slowly, but something fundamental had changed. As Lureth rested beside him, surrounded by beings who no longer avoided her, she realized something important. The human had not given her permission. He had given her courage. And for the first time in her life, she wondered what might happen if her people learned to speak truth as freely as humans did, and act just as boldly when it mattered. The station did not return to normal quickly. Even after the pirates were taken away and the alarms finally stopped, tension remained in the air like static. Lights slowly shifted back to their neutral glow, but conversations stayed quiet. People moved carefully, watching one another with new awareness. Ethan walked beside Lureth through the main corridor. Medics had insisted she rest, but she refused to be taken away alone. Instead, she walked at a calm pace, her glow steady but subdued. Word had already spread about what she had done, and about who had been standing with her. Eyes followed them everywhere. Some beings stepped aside respectfully, others stared openly, whispering. A few bowed their heads slightly to Lureth, something Ethan knew was rare. "This is going to cause trouble for you," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," Lureth replied. "But not the kind I fear most." "And what's that?" She glanced at him. Being silent again. They reached a quiet observation deck overlooking the docking bays. Below them, security crews worked methodically, repairing damage, ships prepared to depart. Life moved forward even after chaos. For a moment, neither spoke. "You changed how they see you," Ethan said. "No," she replied. "You did." He shook his head. "I just stood there." "That is not all you did," Lureth said. "You trusted me before I trusted myself." Ethan leaned on the railing, staring out into space. "Back home, we say courage is contagious." She considered the words. "Then your species is very dangerous." He laughed softly. "Yeah, we get that a lot." Before the moment could settle, a soft chime echoed behind them. Ethan turned to see a group approaching. They were tall, elegant beings with the same faint, glowing patterns as Lureth, though far more restrained. Their expressions were calm, controlled. Her people. Lureth straightened immediately. The one at the front spoke, voice smooth and layered. "Lureth of the Calyrex Vale, you have exceeded your mandate." "I am aware," Lureth said. "You acted without council consent." "Yes, you projected unfiltered emotional force in a civilian station." "Yes." Each admission seemed to weigh heavier than the last. Ethan felt a tightening in his chest. The speaker's gaze shifted to Ethan. "Human." Ethan nodded respectfully. "That's me. You were the catalyst." "I didn't force anything," Ethan said calmly. "She chose." Lureth's glow brightened slightly at his words. "That is the concern," the Calyrex representative replied. "Our people do not choose lightly." "Neither do humans," Ethan said, "but when we do, we stand by it." A murmur passed through the Calyrex group. "You speak freely," another said. "Without fear of consequence." Ethan shrugged. "Consequences happen whether you speak or not." Silence followed. Finally, the leader turned back to Lureth. "You will return with us. The council will decide your standing." Lureth nodded. "I will go." Ethan felt something twist inside him. "Will she be punished?" "That depends," the leader said evenly, "on whether her actions are deemed corruption or evolution." Ethan looked at Lureth. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Do not be." "This path was closed to me until today." Before leaving, she turned to him fully. "You said your words carried no obligation." "That's right," Ethan said. She inclined her head. "Then I will not bind you with mine." Her people moved to escort her away. Ethan watched until they disappeared into the transit corridor, a strange emptiness settling in his chest. Hours passed. Ethan's delayed transport was finally cleared. He sat aboard the ship, strapped into his seat, staring at nothing. The hum of engines filled the cabin. He wondered if he had done more harm than good. The ship launched. Days later, the message arrived. It came through diplomatic channels, marked high priority. Ethan opened it alone in his quarters on the outer colony station. The image of Lureth appeared, standing in a vast chamber of light. Behind her, towering figures watched from elevated platforms. "The Calyrex Council has reached a decision," she said. Ethan leaned forward. "They questioned me for many cycles. They examined my memories. They measured my emotional output before and after meeting you." "And," Ethan asked, "they discovered something troubling." His heart sank. "They discovered that my emotional stability increased," she continued. "That my restraint became stronger because it was chosen, not enforced." Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "The council was divided," she said. "Some feared your influence, others feared what it revealed about us." "What did they decide?" Ethan asked. Lureth's glow brightened, proud but calm. "They have ordered a change." "A change," he echoed. "They will no longer use my people as silent deterrents. Emotional projection will become a voluntary discipline, not a command." Ethan smiled. "That's huge." "Yes," she said. "And uncomfortable." She stepped closer to the projection field. "There is more. I have been assigned as a liaison." "With humans," Ethan guessed. "With you," she corrected. His eyes widened. "Me." "You are already known," she said. "The human who spoke without demand. The human who stood when others waited." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "I was just trying to help." "That," she said gently, "is why you were chosen." Weeks later, they met again in person, this time not in crisis. They walked through a shared research station, side by side, discussing cultures, words, mistakes. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they laughed. The galaxy watched closely. There were critics. There always were. Some called humans reckless. Others called the Calyrex weakened. Then came the reports. Conflicts eased where humans mediated. Calyrex envoys spoke more openly. Fear decreased. Cooperation increased. And always at the center of it was a simple truth. Humans did not control emotions, they respected them. One evening, standing beneath a wide artificial sky, Lureth spoke quietly. "You told me I was beautiful." Ethan nodded. "I meant it. You did not know the cost." "No," he said, "but I knew the truth." She looked at him, glow warm and steady. "Then let me speak freely now." He waited. "You showed me that truth does not lose value when shared, it multiplies." Ethan smiled. The galaxy was changing, not because of weapons, not because of power, but because one human chose honesty over silence, and an alien chose courage over restraint. The galaxy did not change all at once. Change came slowly, like light spreading at the edge of dawn. At first, it was easy to miss. A different tone in diplomatic meetings. A pause before old rules were enforced. A question asked where silence had once lived. Ethan and Lureth worked together through it all. Their shared station became a place many wanted to visit. Humans arrived curious and open. Calyrex envoys arrived cautious but willing. Other species followed, drawn by stories they barely believed. A human who spoke truth without demand. An alien who chose restraint instead of being bound by it. Ethan never wore special symbols. He refused titles beyond envoy. He still dressed simply, still drank bitter station coffee, still laughed too loudly sometimes. That oddly made others trust him more. Lureth changed too. She still carried herself with calm grace, but the careful distance she once kept was gone. Her glow no longer hid behind strict patterns. It responded freely now, warm or sharp or thoughtful depending on how she truly felt. At first, that frightened her people. Then it inspired them. A dispute on the edge of Calyrex space became the turning point. Two neighboring species argued over a shared resource moon. Old treaties clashed. Threats formed quietly. War was not declared, but it waited just beneath the surface. The council asked Ethan and Lureth to go together. When they arrived, the room was full of tension. Representatives sat far apart. Armed guards lined the walls. No one trusted anyone. The lead delegate spoke coldly. "We will not yield." Ethan listened. So did Lureth. When it was her turn, she did something that would once have been unthinkable. She spoke honestly. "This conflict is driven by fear," she said calmly, "not need." The room reacted at once. Anger, shock, offense. Before it could explode, Ethan stepped forward. "She's right," he said. "And fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care about what you might lose." The guards tensed. The delegates stared. Ethan did not raise his voice. "You don't need to win," he continued. "You need to stop hurting yourselves trying to prove something." Silence followed. Lureth's glow softened, spreading through the chamber not as force but as presence. She did not push emotions into others. She allowed them to surface on their own. Slowly, voices lowered. The meeting lasted hours. No one stormed out. No weapons were drawn. When it ended, a temporary agreement stood where war had almost begun. News spread fast. People began to say that humans were strange mediators, that Calyrex no longer hid behind silence, that something new was forming between species, not an alliance, an understanding. One night after another long cycle of talks, Ethan and Lureth stood together on a quiet observation platform. Stars stretched endlessly before them. "You are tired," Lureth said. "Yeah," Ethan admitted, "but it's a good kind." She nodded. "You once said humans shape reality with actions. And words help point the way," he added. She turned toward him. "I have learned that restraint has meaning only when it is chosen. Otherwise, it is fear wearing discipline." Ethan smiled. "That's actually really wise." She studied him for a long moment. "You changed the direction of my people," she said. "I didn't," Ethan replied. "You did." "You opened the door," she insisted. He shrugged lightly. "Doors don't matter if no one walks through." Her glow brightened gently. In the cycles that followed, more Calyrex began to speak openly. Not loudly, not recklessly, but honestly. Emotional training shifted from suppression to balance. Fear no longer ruled their choices. Other species noticed. Some resisted. Old power structures always did. Then came the incident that forced the galaxy to decide what it truly believed about humanity. A massive station near the core worlds suffered a system failure during peak transit. Thousands were trapped. Panic spread faster than information. Multiple species demanded priority evacuation. Security grids failed. A collapse was imminent. No fleet could arrive in time. Ethan and Lureth were closest. When they arrived, chaos ruled, shouting, fear, species retreating into themselves. The local command demanded order. "We need hierarchy, we need control." Ethan looked at the crowd. "No," he said quietly, "we need trust." He climbed onto a raised platform visible to all, no armor, no authority markings. "Listen," he called out. "No one here is more important than anyone else." The command protested. "That will cause panic." "It already has," Ethan replied. Lureth stepped beside him. Her glow spread across the hall, calm and steady, not imposed, but offered. Ethan spoke again. "We can get everyone out, but only if we help each other. Only if we stop seeing species and start seeing people." Something shifted, not all at once, but enough. People began to move together. Stronger beings carried weaker ones. Translators were shared. Panic slowed. When a structural failure trapped a group in a collapsing wing, Ethan went in with rescue teams, pulling survivors free until his arms shook. When fear threatened to overwhelm the crowd again, Lureth stood at the center, not projecting force but grounding emotion, reminding them they were not alone. The station held. Everyone survived. Afterward, no one spoke about command decisions or protocols. They spoke about the human who ran into danger without orders. They spoke about the Calyrex who stood without chains. They spoke about a new kind of strength. The Galactic Council convened weeks later. For the first time, humans were not discussed as a risk. They were asked to speak. Ethan stood before them, hands relaxed at his sides. "We don't have all the answers," he said simply. "We never will, but we show up. We speak honestly, and when someone is afraid, we don't turn away." Silence followed. Then the Calyrex representative rose. "Humanity does not conquer," they said. "Humanity connects." The vote passed. Humans were granted full mediator status across council space, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most willing to care. Later, in a quiet corridor far from cameras and councils, Ethan and Lureth stood together once more. "You spoke again without knowing the cost," Lureth said gently. Ethan smiled. "Still worth it." She looked at him, glow warm, unguarded. "I once thought beauty was a vow that bound," she said. "Now I know it can also be a truth that frees." He met her gaze. "And you?" he asked. "What do you choose now?" She did not hesitate. "I choose to walk forward," she said, "with honesty, with courage." "And without fear of feeling." Ethan nodded. "Sounds like a human choice," she smiled. "Then perhaps our species are not so different." The stars beyond them burned bright and endless. The galaxy remembered many battles, many wars, many great powers. But long after those faded, it remembered something else. A moment when a human spoke a simple truth. An alien listened, and everything changed.